Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Outliers YouTube channel and podcast series and our program, Get to Know. I'm your host, DP Lyle, and I'm here with my partner in crime, Kathleen Antrim.
Thanks, Doug. It's great to be here. And we've got just a fabulous interview. This gentleman that we're going to talk about is not only a best-selling author, but he has had some really wild and interesting careers in his life. And we're going to get into a little bit of that. David Williams, welcome to Get to Know.
Thank you very much. Glad to be here. Glad to be back. Second time
Yep,
here.
I know.
exactly.
We're really glad to have you. And I know last time we talked a little bit about your childhood and if that inspired you to become, well, all of these different careers, including a writer. Um, One of your jobs, you were a helicopter pilot. And do you have any crazy, wild stories from that career and then some of the others? Let's talk about that.
Well, so I wasn't a pilot. I was
Yep.
a paramedic, and
Okay.
I was the chief flight paramedic for a number of years in a program called Starflight, which is in Central Texas, and they cover about 14 counties now and do a lot of rescue. There's a big lake area there. The Highland Lakes are there, so there's a lot of water rescue, things like that, wilderness rescue, and that was fun. It was a hoot. I will say, just because you said pilot, that they trained all of us on how to fly the thing back to the airport if the pilot passed out. And the plan was we were to Mayday, and we had a certain setting. We knew how to dial that in, and we would fly back to Austin. And in those days, the plan was still to foam the runway. So they would foam the runway for us. And our plan, the instructions from the pilots, was get the thing down in one or two big pieces and not a whole bunch of little pieces. And I went, all right, that's a plan, man. So,
Did
but
you ever have to do
otherwise, I never did it. I was okay at flying it straight, and I can make like gentle curves. I was horrible at the hovering part. I couldn't get it to stay still. I
Yeah.
never quite got that down, but it was fun. That was a fun time in my life.
Well, as a paramedic, helicopter rescue service and all that, you guys sometimes have to go out under not the best conditions because you have to push that envelope as far as weather and stuff is
Uh,
concerned because of the obvious situation. Did you have any dicey situations like that? I mean, this is Texas after all.
it is. I mean, everything in Texas is dicey anyway. So come on.
Exactly.
Uh, yeah, man, we were pretty rough and tumble. We all of our pilots were Vietnam veterans, and they
Right.
were high risk, uh, high reward kind of folks. And they would land in places, just postage stamps areas. We
Yep.
clipped treetops a lot. Like it wasn't an
Wow.
irregular thing. We were moving branches and doing edge trimming and uh land right, skids. Twice we landed with skids off of a cliff. One skid was off the cliff and the other one was on the cliff, and we hopped off on the cliff side. That's important that you go out the wrong
Yeah.
door. Yeah. And had two emergency landings in my flight time. And one of them, it's so fun. Now you brought this up. Now I'm telling stories. One of them, we were coming down. We ended up in a big fog bank. It was a mistake, and we shouldn't have been there. And we were in an aerial tower area for radios and television. I mean, we were in the aerial tower neighborhood, and flying left to right was going to get us hurt. We were going to run into one of those towers. And so I clipped in. I had a harness on. I clipped in. I got out on the skids, and I was calling out the ground, our height from the ground, and 50 feet, 30 feet, 20 feet. Oh, we have cows beneath us. We have cows. We have cows, and this herd of cows is right underneath us, and so we kind of had to wait for them to move out of the way so we could finally land this thing, and we camped out in that helicopter that night. We didn't go anywhere until that fog bank was
That that is such a Texas story. You
We have
know?
cows. We
Of
have cows.
course. The only thing that make it better if they were Longhorns. Were they
I
Longhorns?
wish I could. I'm not gonna
Yeah,
make it up, but man, that
yeah.
would have been cool.
That would
But
have been even cooler, wouldn't it? Yeah, yeah, that's great.
What's the most dangerous thing you ever did?
oh, that the helicopter stuff was could be kind of dicey sometimes, because we did a lot of scene work. It was not. It was only about 20% hospital to hospital. Most of it was at the scene. So we were landing in pastures, on highways, and in heavy woods, and so that could be a thing. Um, some years later, after Waco, after the Branch Davidians at Waco, there was a big call for tactical medics, SWAT medics. Every federal team and a lot of county teams wanted their own SWAT medic, and I raised my hand for that. And they sent me to the police academy, and they sent me to combat medic school at Fort Hood, now Fort Cavazos, and we and so that became my life, and I started doing a lot of SWAT warrant serves with high-end teams, and that was fantastic. And then we ended up moving to Northwest from Central Texas to Northwest Arkansas for some family reasons, and the police. I was certified as a police officer, and the police department paid quite quite a bit over double what the paramedics were making. And it was just abysmal what they were paying their medics at that time. So I decided to go into full-time police work at that time, and was still a SWAT medic for the team here, and then just became, you know, a beat cop, and later for a much longer period of time a detective in a violent crimes unit, a special investigations unit, and some people didn't want to go to jail, and sometimes that was a thing, and
Exactly.
they seem to resent that greatly. I was always very respectful, and I teach criminology now, and one of the things I teach my students, it's like a mantra, is you never curse a man in handcuffs, because once the handcuffs are on, the
Right.
fight is over, and all he's going to remember is, did you respect him or did you not respect him?
Right.
And I just feel like it was important for me to do that. It's important for me to convey that lesson to these young soon to be officers, that there's a job to do, and you can do it without being mean spirited, and be respectful, and be highly effective when you do it that way.
So, you know, after this kind of adrenaline-filled life, how did becoming a writer affect you? Did it change and give you some interesting experiences, or tell us about that?
Well, so yeah, writing is not nearly as adrenaline filled, but it's something I've always wanted to do. When we talked last time, you asked me about my childhood, and it was something I knew from about 12 or 13 years on, that I wanted to be a writer. I used my dad's old, it was like a Texas Instruments orange typewriter, electric typewriter, and I plunked out pretty awful things. But you know, for a 12 or 13-year-old, they were still pretty awful. And I just felt like, okay, this is what I want to do. And I always knew. And so when part of career choosing, I wanted to be a cop, and I really wanted to work on helicopters. I got to do those things. But part of career choosing was also about, well, what would make good stories later, and what would be fodder for that. And in that regard, I think I chose well. So it's not, it's not the adrenaline, that bump that I used to get. I don't feel like I really need it. I feel really complete with that. I don't miss much of it. I miss walking with a cadre of men and women you respect and admire, and I miss the pretty lights on the cars sometimes at night. That's kind of neat looking. I miss confessions. I enjoyed getting confessions from people who had done awful things to children, and to others that they were supposed to care about. And I liked that part of the job. That was one of the things I was good at. I wasn't good at every part of the job, but that was one where I could communicate and get people to tell me their secrets. And I miss that, but for the most part, I don't. And I like teaching about it now. I like talking about it and thinking about it, but I'm in a very good place in that regard.
So, I mean, it sounds like you do use, obviously, a lot of your experiences and weave them into your books. Tell us about the latest one.
I do. So prior to this, uh, the stuff I've written has been nonfiction. Oh, look, there she is. About victimology and crime prevention, crime mitigation in the workplace and in schools and in the home. But this is my debut novel. It's called Carousel Grift, and it is a comedy about an amusement park owner who's been arguing with her dead adoptive father for 30 years. He was a very controlling personality when he was alive, and he's still trying to control her from beyond the grave. And there's some magical realism elements to this. And she's joined on her path trying to get rid of this, you know, pretty cruel old man by an angelic presence called Luz. Luz means light in Spanish, and Luz's function in the world is to show our protagonist, her name is Callie, that there's a better way. She doesn't have to live the rest of her life angry and hurt and afraid of this old man, and she can forgive him and she can forgive herself. And it's only when she does that that she can finally start really loving this man who loves her very much and have a better relationship with her daughter. And so that begs the question. I know you're gonna ask it, but it's a fair question, and it gets asked a lot. Why would a cop write this? And so there are a couple things in this that stem from my career. One is that I was in that special investigations unit, and violent and predatory crimes, primarily against women and children. And one of the dynamics that I had to face, and it took me a while to understand it. I can't say I totally understand it still, but I get it now. I'm more empathetic about it. Is that some people, some women who are in an abusive situation can't or won't leave. And I was really baffled by that at first. Just get out. Well, it's not that simple. There's 1,000 reasons why people don't leave an abusive situation: loyalty and finances and fear and the children. And he's got the car keys and the bank statements. And there's a whole lot of reasons. But when somebody could, and we were part of that, we would help with the safety aspect, and then we would have counseling, and we would have social workers and housing, and just get them set up. And then you would see that person 6 months later, and they were alive and they were thriving, and their life was different. That was my touchdown moment. I felt so good about that. I felt like this is why I got into this thing. This is why I'm doing this. And very validating, very rewarding. And so I wanted to write about that experience, a person who's really having difficulty leaving a situation where they're terrified to do that. So that was
Let me
part
ask
of
you
it.
a question. Let me ask you a question about that. I know
Okay.
that the most dangerous time is the leaving.
Mm,
That's where things go to hell in a handbasket.
it really
Did
is.
you get all the things that you talked about, the housing and the financial situation, all the different things, safety situation? Did you have to get all those things kind of set up quietly before you pulled the trigger on, hey, today's the day you're walking out the door?
Yeah, that's a great question. So that gets into safety planning, and that was part of my function. And I would generally work with somebody from one of the shelters around this area, and we would help them develop a plan. A grab bag, and where's the documentation, where's the keys, do I have financing, where am I going to go, who am I going to call, and do things like get all those phone numbers, because he's going to cut off your phone. So make sure you've got the important numbers, make sure you've got the bank account numbers, and because all that is going to be gone. And so safety planning is a big part of that. And
And you do that
and
in the shadows, so to speak.
and it's very
Yeah,
much often behind the scenes,
yeah.
especially if you've got a person who is
It-
probably going to stalk, who's probably going to be violent in that stalking, and there are red flags or indicators to that. And
right.
so yeah, we would work very closely and often covertly to make sure that that happened, in an expeditious but also safe way,
Yeah.
where we could have those touchdown moments.
I would think
Great
that'd
question.
be really harrowing. I mean, quite frankly, to, be trying to hide information as you're trying to get out of
Mm.
someplace. Because
And
it
so
can't
this story pretty
happen
much
anyway.
plays into all of that, correct?
In a big way, it
In a
does.
big
Now,
way.
in this story, she gets away she gets away uh, by some choices she makes, and they're brave choices. She's she's she comes back because in his will he makes an offer to her to have this property, but in order to have the property, it's all about controlling her. It's still about control, but
Mhm.
in order to have this big piece of property where she eventually sets up this amusement park and raises her daughter there, she's got this baby. She doesn't know what to do. She's got this baby daughter, and she's kind of flummoxed. What am I going to do? He makes this offer through the will, but it's with some weird stipulations that don't feel good to her. And she does it for her daughter. And then later on, there's a falling out with her daughter, and she's really frustrated by that because it's like, I did all this for you, um, and then the daughter leaves, and so
Mm.
yeah, that's part of the story. This sounds really maudlin, and I'll tell you the first couple of passes at this, the first couple of drafts, it was kind of maudlin, but I knew that wasn't the right way to tell this.
Interesting.
We get through, I get through, and I think I can safely say a lot of people get through their hardest times in life with a kind of a dark sense of humor. It got me through the career. It got me through, times with dark times with my family and medical crises. And we have this innate sense of humor that if we can tap into that, even if we're not feeling mirth, we can, kind of look the devil in the eye and go, "You're not getting me today, man," and chuckle. And so I I switched course pretty early on and made this a comedy. And I say it's a dark-ish comedy. Um, Nobody dies other than the old man, and that's not because of murder or anything. He just dies. And and so I just feel strongly that that is the way to tell this story. And if we can get a chuckle out of it, man, that's awesome. But
Yeah.
hopefully people also think about, somebody in their life that this is affecting and what that means and how we can be understanding. The other thing I want to tell you that was going on in my life at that time, in the city where we had moved, there was a carnival that came and wintered there every year. And they would put their carnival rides out there, all the roller coasters and the Ferris wheel and the carousel and tilt-a-whirl, all that stuff was out there in this field in these warehouses. They leased some land, and those carnies would hit town, and you knew it. If you were a cop, you knew those carny guys were here. Most of them were really funny and really quirky and just eccentric personalities. You can imagine they work for a carnival. They travel around the South and the Southwest, and uh, shenanigans ensue. But uh, some of them were kind of sinister. And so I wanted to write about them. I wanted to write about that lifestyle and that personality. And so that's part of it. That's why there's an amusement park. It's a carnival that for strange, funny reasons. They come and they they set up an amusement park with all their own rides to work with her. And I'd recently become a single parent. I was raising two teenage boys on my own. This protagonist, Callie, is a single parent, and so that was part of the story. So there were several factors that came directly from my life that I just interpreted in a different way, and then and
Cool.
then told a story.
Well, how did you come up with this cover, which I just love? I mean, who
Yeah,
designed
that's
that for you?
really interesting.
So the publisher's artist designed that. It's a guy named David King, and he emailed me and he said, "I'm looking for like themes from your book." And I said, "Well, there are these painted ponies. They wear party hats, and there's a carousel. There's always a carousel, and there is this recurring theme of a snow cone that's a rainbow snow cone because Callie's daughter loves a rainbow snow cone, and when she spills it at one point, and then later in the book." One of the characters, Callie's love interest, says we can put the colors back, referring to the rainbow, but referring to life. We can put the colors back. We have spills, we can make it okay. And so I told him that. I said, okay, so painted ponies, a rainbow snow cone, carousel, and he took it from there and he came up with this thing.
Wow.
And the first pass, this is three passes. So we went back and forth for three passes, and the first one was a little too bright and sort of comic booky to me, a little bit too wonky, and the font was off. And then he sent me this third pass, and I went, oh, and I got on my phone, I turned it to my wife. I said, what do you think? And she said, that's it. I said, I agree. And so that's how that cover came to be.
It's fantastic.
Yeah, it really is.
Thanks,
Yeah,
man.
it's fantastic.
I
So what's
really like
next
that
for
cover.
you? What are you
Yeah.
working on
So
now?
I have written, I'm on the fourth of a detective series based on cases I actually worked. And I pitched that. I've got a full request out on that. And I don't know, my crystal ball's broken. I hope they pick it up. And then and that, obviously that's a very different genre, and that's going to be somewhat of a more serious tone. But again, the this is based on my cases, and so it's going to be based in part on my personality. So, even though on the bad days you're going to laugh at stuff, and so I think this detective has a sense of humor. You know, I know you write that way. I've read a couple of your novels, and you always are inserting humor into your mysteries. And I think that's a great way to tell about, you know, you could have population of 1,000 and have, you know, 10 murders a year in this little town, most dangerous place on earth, but make it funny and it can be compelling and entertaining. So I hope that's what I've
Yeah, I
achieved, and
agree.
I'll let you know soon. And not, you know, if y'all invite me, I want to come back.
Oh,
Okay,
absolutely.
great.
Absolutely. And I can't
Good.
not put humor in my stories.
Yeah,
I can't not, you know, it's just not going to work.
it's the only time where I think a double negative is absolutely called for. I can't
Yeah,
not do that.
I cannot do that. I'm from
So
the South, of
David,
course. I cannot believe.
yeah, really, tell us where our viewers can learn more about you and get your books.
My website is davidlanewilliams.com. L-A-N-E, David, L-A-N-E, Williams.com. And right now, you know, a little sales pitch, but it's for a good cause. We have a fundraiser going on right now for the Children's Safety Center, which is for abused and neglected children. They provide all sorts of wonderful services. And there's a
Excellent.
little link in my website with a discount code so you get it cheaper. And then 100% of my author royalties will go to that charity through Halloween.
Oh, love that. That's
Okay.
fantastic. Really fantastic.
Excellent. Excellent.
Well, we'll definitely have to have you back for the next book. And I'm going to ask our viewers to please click the thumbs up. It helps with the algorithm and gets the interviews out into the world. And if you enjoy what we're doing here, please go ahead and subscribe. You just click that button and it's free, and then you won't miss any of our interviews. And I'll throw it back to you, Doug.
Yeah, David, thank you so much. It's always a pleasure to have you here. You're such an interesting guy, and you've done so much in your life, and now you've joined this madness, and we really love that. So good luck with it down the road.
Thanks, man. I appreciate you. Good to see y'all.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
I want to thank everybody for tuning in. You know, this has been the Outliers program, Get to Know, here on our YouTube channel and our podcast series, and we'll be back with more soon. So until then, keep reading, keep writing, and keep having fun, and don't get caught.